Good morning. Good to see everybody. You guys don't seem as excited as I am.
What is your excitement level for this, to finally get back out there?
Oh, it's always exciting just to get everybody back in the building. And I'll tell you what kind of got the juices going was just going to that soccer match the other night and having a packed Lambeau. That was a great environment.
At the end of OTA, at the end of minicamp or OTAs, you said you were at least cautiously optimistic about Dave being ready for the start of training camp. Did anything happen between now and then, or just how concerned are you now about maybe his availability at the start of the season?
Yeah, well, I know we've talked about this quite a bit. I can tell you this, I'm not a doctor, and that's not my expertise. So as soon as they clear him, then he'll be ready to go. I can tell you, though, from what I've seen, I know Dave's doing everything he can, and I know Goody kind of got into, what transpired prior to us even starting the off season. So, none of these are just always clear cut, and some guys recover at a different rate, or there's different variances in terms of some of those injuries and just in how severe they are. And unfortunately, he had a pretty big injury.
Given what you knew about his injury, New Year's Day 2021, how surprised are you that the recovery has lasted this long?
Well, I've never been a part of something like this, so yeah. I think anytime it's a first, you are a little bit surprised, but at the same time, I've got a lot of trust and faith in not only our people here, but in terms of what Dave, just the effort that he puts in each and every day to be at his best. He's a pro's pro, so it's unfortunate, but it is what it is, and when he's ready to go, we'll be excited to have him back out there.
Yeah, with Christian, going to miss a little bit of time, Goody told us. How do you get him caught up when he gets back? Is there any concern given just how much I think you probably want him to be a part of your offense?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a challenge. No question, because there's nothing like reps, especially full speed reps. I think Christian's he's been pretty impressive in terms of how fast he was able to pick everything up, during our off season into OTAs, and I know he's working hard, and I think Vrabel does a great job with those guys, getting them up to speed. But there's still nothing like those game reps, whether it's preseason reps or practice reps. So it will be a process. That's all I can say to it, and I don't really have a whole lot of expectations as to when he'll get caught up to speed. It's just what we're looking for is just that those improvements each and every day from a mental standpoint. But there's nothing like getting out there, especially with a guy like Aaron, with how good he is, pre-snap, and being able to subtly signal or just give a guy a look and them to understand what that means.
Yeah, sticking with the receivers, man, I would say Christian maybe changes some of this, but you have the three veteran guys. Do you go into this focusing on those three veteran guys to get them ready and on the same page, or do you try to force feed some of those younger guys in just to see what they've got right away?
I think it's a fluid situation, and I know you guys love it, especially Nagler. I can see you smirking at me right there. We're going to take it one day at a time, and just it's going to be fluid, though. That's all I can tell you, and it's going to be a process. And I think we're going to try to put those guys in situations to see where they're at throughout, whether it's in practice, or maybe playing some of those younger guys a little bit more in the preseason than we've done in years past.
So what's the most important thing you want to do these first 3 or 4 practices before you put the pads on? And you added a practice on Friday. Could you talk about that?
Say that. What do you mean?
What are the most important things you want to get down before you put the pads on in these first 3 or 4
Oh yeah, well we're laying the foundation. So and granted, you kind of lay that in the off season. So we're going back through the installs. We'll have 4 installs in prior to our first padded practice. And you just want to kind of see the recall because, there's really not a whole lot of meeting time in training camp, despite how long the days can be. But when you talking about just the amount of time you give to your installs, there's not quite as much. So these guys have to come back with that foundation already set, so to speak. And but yeah, I just want to see, again, I want to see our guys go out there with great energy and great attitudes and give max effort each and every day. And that's really, I think, all you can ask of anybody. Is we always stress, being the best version of you, whatever that is. And so that's what we're looking for, is guys that are going to go out there and compete to the best of their ability and communicate and try to get everybody on the same page.
Hey, Matt, can you talk at all about your contract extension?
I'd rather not. What do you want me to say?
Just your thoughts on.
No, it's just, to be honest with you, obviously I'm very grateful to this organization, to Mark Murphy, to Ed Policy, to Goody, to Russ, to our assistant coaches, to our players. I mean, it takes everybody. So that wouldn't happen without all these guys. To the guys that, maybe aren't on our team anymore, to coaches that aren't here anymore. I'm very grateful for everybody and everybody's collective effort, because it's never about one person, and it takes all of us from personnel to the coaching to the players. So just thankful for the group of men that we have, not only in that locker room but within this organization.
What's it been like working with Coach Bisaccia so far? And you added the two guys that worked with him in Vegas. You have a more veteran look on special teams.
Well, again, I think it's a wait and see. But I will say this: Rich is definitely got a clear-cut philosophy. He's super intense, which I love, and he brings an edge to us. There's no doubt. And I've learned more about special teams than I ever have in my life, just sitting in his meetings. And he's been doing it at a really high level for a really long time. And I'm not trying to discredit anybody that's been here in the past. That's not the intent. I just think he is, he's got a lot of experience, and he brings such an intensity and a tough love to our unit. He's not afraid to call anybody out, including myself. So he's just been a blessing to have. I can't believe this guy's not a head coach somewhere, to be honest with you.
You said that you've learned more about special teams from him than you have in your life. You kind of made your bones with quarterback, tutoring and offensive side. Did you arrive at a point after last season where you kind of realized that you maybe needed to learn more about special teams and immerse yourself that way, more in that phase?
Yeah, I think you're always trying to grow in other facets, whether it's defensively, whether it's special teams, shoot on offense as well. So that's something that we're always trying to, grind and continue to develop and have that growth mindset because there's a lot of different ways to do things, but it is cool to see somebody with such a convicted philosophy come in here and it's crystal clear. The communication, I can promise you, is very honest, and it's crystal clear.
You said Sammy was going to be coming off the pup list pretty quick. Were you given any timeline on his return?
I don't pay attention to timelines anymore. When they're cleared, they're cleared. With no expectation comes no limitation. So.
Speaking of people who are coming back from rehabs, Elton Jenkins, Goody says he's ahead of schedule. How have you seen that offensive line room kind of come together with kind of the setback that Bakhtiari has, and then another leader like Elton having to fight back from an injury?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's been some turnover in that room, and we've lost a couple great leaders that were on our roster over the last couple of years, but in particular, when you lose guys like a Billy Turner or Lucas Patrick, I mean, those guys are glue guys that just embody what it's all about to be a great team player, a great teammate, and so you need some of these younger guys, and thankfully, Elton's had a lot of great people to learn from, and he's a guy that obviously he kind of sets the tone in that room. Him, David, super excited about Josh Myers, and obviously he had some adversity that he went through last year. We've got a young group in that room, even guys like Runyon and Royce that have played a lot of football. But there's still a lot of growth for them. So, it's exciting just about the talent that we have in that room. But again, it's all got to come together, and it is somewhat challenging when you're trying to forecast the future in terms of when you potentially could get guys back. And I think that, we've got a lot of trust in Buckus and Ryan Mahaffey, and it's obviously Steno's still heavily involved in what we're doing in that room. And so I think collectively we will be able to have a good plan for all those guys.
Matt, because of the summer seemed to be on the defense, how confident are you in the leaders in that unit to keep some of the younger guys from maybe reading the headlines a little bit and maybe getting too far ahead of themselves?
Yeah, we've got a lot of great veterans on that side of the ball. Talking about like Kenny Clark, Dean Lowry, Devondre Campbell, Adrian Amos, Savage has played a lot of ball. Rasul was obviously a huge pickup for us. So, definitely really excited about all those guys. Rashawn Gary is as much of a tone setter as we have on our football team. So, and then Preston Smith has played a lot of ball. So there's a lot of not only great players, but great people and guys that have some wisdom to them.
Matt, Aaron had, 12 snaps, 15, whatever, during the mini camp. What does he look like now from what you've seen, and then how are you going to handle, how many throws he has to start out, having not been in the offseason workouts? Sure.
He looks great coming in. I mean, that was a pretty impressive clip of him yesterday coming in, what's his name? The actor. Yeah, Nicolas Cage. Sorry, I'm not much of a movie guy, but no, he looks good. He looked good in the run test, and I think that's something that we always kind of monitor with all the quarterbacks, just in terms of the number of throws that they get, and certainly we did last year, and we'll follow a similar protocol as how we have in the past.
Matt, it's obviously not a one-for-one replacement with Sammy and Devontae, but you've worked with Sammy Watkins before. Different situation than Christian. How important is it to get him kind of educated in what are you going to do and what can you bring?
Yeah, it's all the guys, right? I mean, just there's nothing like those reps with a guy like number 12. I mean, that's as easy as I can put it for you. So it's important to get all those guys as many reps with him as possible, whether it's full speed or walkthrough, because he has a great way about him. He's always testing them, and so he might do something that signals something that we're not even thinking about, just to test the guys. So you always have to be on your toes.
Matt, following up on what Bill was asking about the young wide receivers, whether it's Dobbs or whoever, do they get the fire hose treatment? Do they get all three spots? They have to learn all three spots, or do you bring them along kind of individually, depending on what you think they can handle?
Yeah, I think it's more you want to put them at one spot, and then you feel pretty good with them in that spot. And the thing is, it's kind of maybe a little misleading because we have so many different formations where, typically you think your X is your split end into the boundary, but we have formations where he ends up lining to the slot or shoot even to the formation strength. So it's a little misleading in terms of X, F, Z, in terms of just pigeonholing those guys into that particular position. It's so important for our guys, number one, to learn the formations, especially in that room, just so you know exactly where you're lining up. But everything we do from a concept is you have to learn it conceptually. So it's if I'm at number one, if I'm at number two, if I'm at number three, that's how we kind of teach those concepts.
Given the unknown at tackle with Dave and obviously Elton, are Zach Tom and Sean Ryan guys that you want to get maybe more tackle reps in camp than you did in the offseason program?
You just have to wait and see. No, we're gonna kind of move all those guys around. Again, that is a little bit of a challenge, I would say, with younger players, right? Is because you want them to be able to compete for a position. It's just how much time are you devoting to those to cross-training those guys. And I know our guys have done a hell of a job here over the last couple of years of being able to do that with some of these guys. Obviously, Sean and Zach have played tackle in their college careers, so that's something that they can do. But I think, you know, we'll ease them in probably more inside, and then we'll just kind of see where it goes. It's going to be a fluid situation. One day they could be playing guard, and the next day they could play tackle, or, you know, we could keep them at guard, and in some of our walkthrough settings, get them those tackle reps.
Any tendency
You
to?
said at the end of last season that one of the things you wanted to examine was possibly using more starters. Is that something that you and Rich have talked about? Will we see some of those guys getting reps this week too?
Yeah, all those guys are in the meetings. So, again, I think we'll just see where we end up. It's so early, right? We haven't even been on the grass with pads on since he's been here. So it'll be a process in terms of watching some of these young guys develop, and if we feel like we've got a real player at a position, then we'll let the young guys go, because I do think that's part of the learning curve in the National Football League. Is a lot of these guys that are super young start out on special teams, and then they earn a little bit more trust, and then they kind of integrate themselves, whether it's on offense or defense.
Any concern with Mason?
Yeah, you're always concerned when your kicker is not out there. So, but I think, you know, he's working his tail off. The thing that gives you a little bit of comfort is it's not his first rodeo. He's been doing this for a really long time. But you know, again, as far as when he'll be back and be out there, I really can't tell you that.
Matt, without Devontae in the offense, was it a fun challenge for you to kind of create or draw different packages to spread the ball around this offense?
I think, again, that's going to be a work in progress. Yeah, certainly we have our foundation, our core beliefs. You know, Devontae is such a unique player because it really didn't matter where you put him, right? You felt really good about that matchup, and you kind of would adjust accordingly to how defenses played him. Like, I mean, shoot, I remember going into when we played Baltimore last year, and I know they had a ton of injuries or whatnot, especially with the COVID, and a lot of players that typically weren't in there on the back end. But you know, each team kind of adjusts a little bit differently to him. So I think that's going to be part of the adjustment this year, is how will teams play us without a guy like that. I mean, but at the same time, we still have a Hall of Fame quarterback. So that's kind of the cat and mouse game that we are always playing with each other, you know, with from an offensive perspective to how a defense is going to play us and how we want to attack that defense.
Matt, building off that, you guys did a lot of things well offensively last year. Is there something you looked at where you're like, we need to do this a lot better, we need to button this one or at least one or two areas up to be better on offense?
Oh, absolutely. There was plenty of those conversations in the offseason, and even how we use specific players. I'm not going to get into the details of that right now but there were definitely some trends that we saw, especially in our run game with, you know, A.J. Dillon versus Aaron Jones. So we're conscious of all that, and we'll kind of see how it unfolds.